Imagine your garden. It might be just a small backyard, a simple patch of land behind your house where you grow a few vegetables or maybe a couple of tomato plants. Nothing unusual, nothing extraordinary. Now add something to it. In one corner of that garden, there's a small pond. It doesn't have to be big at all, just a few square meters of water. Inside it, a few fish are swimming, some aquatic plants are growing, and maybe a couple of ducks are gliding across the surface. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a decorative feature, just a peaceful little water element in a backyard. But what if I told you that this small pond could feed your family for years? Without constant feeding, without machines, without chemical fertilizers. It sounds almost unbelievable, but this idea is far from new. In fact, it goes back more than 2,400 years. A Chinese farmer named Fan Li once described a similar system in an ancient text about fish farming. He explained that a properly designed pond could produce an impressive amount of food, sometimes even more protein per area than traditional livestock farming. The principle behind it was surprisingly simple: water, sunlight, living organisms, and time. That's all. When these elements are combined in the right way, the pond becomes a self-functioning ecosystem. What's even more fascinating is that systems like this really existed. In ancient villages across Asia, ponds like these were part of everyday life. Some of them were used continuously for decades, even centuries, passed down through generations. And they kept producing food all that time. If we go even further back, around 3,500 years ago along the Yellow River, early farmers began noticing something interesting. After seasonal floods, water would remain in natural depressions in the land. Fish would get trapped in these pools. But instead of dying, they survived. They adapted. They grew, reproduced, and created small natural ecosystems. People observed this carefully. They started digging these pools deeper, reinforcing the edges with clay, and gradually discovered something important. If a pond is deep and stable enough, fish can survive year-round. This wasn't planned agriculture in the modern sense. It was observation. Humans were simply learning from nature rather than forcing it to behave differently. By around 1600 BCE, during the Shang Dynasty, fish ponds were already part of agricultural life. Archaeological findings, including oracle bone inscriptions, even mention fishing in the garden, which we now understand as early managed fish ponds located inside household spaces. Some families raised ornamental fish like koi, while others raised carp for food. At that point, ponds were already serving both decorative and practical purposes. Later, during the Tang Dynasty, something unusual happened. The emperor's family name was Li, and the word for carp in Chinese sounded very similar. According to tradition, it became taboo to raise or harm carp. As a result, farmers had to adapt. Instead of abandoning fish farming, they innovated. They began raising multiple fish species together in the same pond, species that lived in different layers of the ecosystem and did not compete with each other. Some fed on surface plants, others on algae, others on bottom sediments. This was the beginning of polyculture aquaculture, one of the most efficient natural farming systems ever developed. By the time European travelers reached China centuries later, they were amazed. They saw entire villages surrounded by ponds that had been in use for generations. No machines, no artificial feed, no complex infrastructure. Just water, plants, fish, and natural balance. The system was self-sustaining. The pond produced its own food through sunlight, algae growth, microorganisms, and natural food chains. But when this knowledge traveled to the West, it slowly faded. In Europe and later in North America, agriculture developed differently. People focused on livestock, cows, pigs, chickens, systems that require constant feeding, housing, and labor. Ponds were no longer seen as food systems. Instead, they became decorative features, koi ponds, garden water features, ornamental landscapes. The idea that a pond could feed a family was largely forgotten. Then, in the 1960s, scientists at Auburn University in the United States decided to revisit this ancient idea. They built small experimental ponds about the size of backyard swimming pools and stocked them with fish like bluegill and catfish. What they discovered was surprising. These small ponds could produce hundreds of pounds of fish per year with very little human input. The ecosystem itself generated most of the food. Sunlight fed algae, algae fed plankton, plankton fed fish. Waste became nutrients through bacteria. Everything was part of a closed loop. To make the system even more efficient, researchers and farmers began integrating ducks, aquatic plants, and multiple fish species. Ducks help fertilize the water and stir nutrients from bottom. Aquatic plants filtered excess nutrients and stabilized the system. Fish occupied different ecological niches, reducing competition. Together, these components formed a complete self-sustaining ecosystem. And the most interesting part? It doesn't require a large farm. Even a small backyard pond, just a few meters wide, can support this kind of system. Once established, it takes time to mature. In the first months, the ecosystem stabilizes. After about a year, fish can be harvested. After 2 years, reproduction begins naturally. By the third year, the pond can essentially maintain itself. In colder climates, some adjustments are needed, but the core system remains surprisingly resilient. And in the end, the real value of all this is not just food. It is independence. Because when you have a living ecosystem in your backyard, you're no longer fully dependent on supply chains, markets, or rising food prices. You are cooperating with nature rather than fighting against it. And maybe that is the most important lesson of all, that sometimes the most powerful systems are not the most complex ones. They're the ones that have quietly worked for thousands of years, right under our feet, waiting to be remembered.